I used to do a lot of short stories, creative writing when I was a child, and then outgrew it and thought, oh, this is just simply silly. Did other things in my life as an adult, struggled as a graphic designer, not totally fulfilled, got a degree in fine art, drawing and painting, again, not totally fulfilled. A series of midlife events led to me becoming a writer, and as I got into that, I realized, aha, this is it. This is my niche. This is where I belong. I think my favorite part of writing is developing those characters, making them three-dimensional, making them real, making my villains devious, making my leading characters human and fallible, just like the rest of us. They're not Superman. They're everyday men and women that make the same mistakes we make. In one of my books, I created a villain based on my ex-husband who, shall we say, had a most unfortunate accident. Now, this may sound cruel, but it was actually very therapeutic and very healthy because not only did it make a really exciting chapter in a novel, it helped me psychologically release a lot of the pent-up anger I had toward him. So by the time I finished writing it, I felt more at peace in myself. Don't worry about forgiving people. Just write them in a book and kill them. You just feel so much better. My absolute favorite leading man character has to be Jeremy Palmer. What's interesting about this character, he first appears in the reunion. He is Ian Palmer, the leading man's son. I had originally planned for Jeremy to be a villain. He was to be a rogue character who would be quickly written out of the story. But this character had other ideas. Instead of a rogue character, he became a rival. We had a little bit of a romantic triangle for a time going on between he and his father and Jillian, the leading lady. Of course, Jillian eventually ended up with Ian, and I finished that story. But I had this character that was just such a good character, I thought I need to do more with him. When I wrote The Journey, I made that as a book for him, where he could be the leading man, and I could really expand this character and really work with him and really use him to his full potential, which I did. And it was so wonderful, and it just goes to show how oftentimes as a writer, the characters do define themselves. We'll maybe have a preset notion who they are, but as we sit down and start writing these characters to find themselves for us, they tell us who they are. They tell us how they want to be written. And again, with Jeremy, I think that was the most delightful experience of it, which not only was he not a villain, was not written out, but actually got his own book. If I could be any of the characters in any of my books, I think the one I would most like to be is Jillian in The Reunion. Jillian was, I think of all my characters, the ones based closest on my own life. She is kind of who I might have become had I made some different career choices. She is the successful artist, gallery owner, who gets reunited with her long-lost love that she lost 20 years earlier. Kind of a really idealistic story. The craziest ideas I will come up with sometimes when I least expect it. It's when those characters start talking in my head, and I see the scene playing out like I'm watching a movie in the back of my mind. And I have to go to the computer and I have to start working, especially as the characters are talking. Sometimes they talk faster than I can type. And it's getting that scene down while I do it. And that's what makes the fingers flow. It's them talking to me. It's them talking to each other. For me, the hardest part of writing are the transitional narratives. These are these paragraphs of prose where I'm connecting two different scenes together. A scene between two characters may end. The next scene doesn't begin till maybe weeks later. I've got this little bridge that I've got to fill the gap. That's what I call a transitional narrative. For me, that's a real challenge to write. One thing, and this is absolute truth, they tell us when we write, don't worry about perfect editing, don't worry about perfect prose, don't worry about your grammar, your punctuation, your spelling. The first draft, just get the idea down. Go back and re-edit it later, but flesh that idea out as quickly as you can. It's like a musician when they hear a tune playing in their head. You run to the keyboard, you blink, tick, 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 you just get it down. You worry about polishing it later, but it's getting that thought down, because if you don't get it down quickly, it's gone. A lot of my friends are musicians. The reason I hang out with musicians is writers and musicians have a similar muse. We understand each other. Our minds work very similarly. One of the things I like to do is go out and listen to live jazz here in Tucson. There are several different venues I like to go, such as Old Pueblo Grill, such as Monterey Court, even Wilbur's Grill I've been to a few times. So yeah, we've got, one thing that's wonderful about Tucson, we have so many artistic, creative people, and it's great when we can all get together and have a meeting of the minds. Even though the books that I write are entertainment, I could be brightening someone's life and not be aware of it. When I see a review on Amazon from somebody that maybe lives half a world away, talking about, I read your book and it moved me, that means I'm doing my job. That means I've made a profound difference in someone's life. At the end of the day, I'm not living the life I expected to live. I'm living the life I was meant to live.